Valerie is our next storyteller. Valerie, I'm excited for you to... Valerie, I hope that you get up here and your next adventure is the trauma of telling this story. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just trying to make people at ease. Okay, make people at ease, put them at ease. All right, thank you. Give it up for Valerie.
Thank you. Okay. In 1996, it became really clear that I had a workaholic problem. And I was advised to learn about fun, which was really hard. So I set about researching fun. And I found out that the best way to have fun was to start by making a list of things that you would do with unlimited time, money, and energy. And as a workaholic, I had none of those. So I made the list, and at the top of the list was ride horses. So I went to Palos Verdes stables, and I took a riding lesson on a 33-year-old horse named Elmer. And I put my heels down and put my eyes straight ahead, and I loved every minute of it, and I cried all the way home with joy. Around that time, I was thinking of adopting a child, but instead I wound up adopting an 18-month-old colt named Red Hot Rodney. I immediately changed his name to Bodhisattva Jones. I was not equipped as a green rider to have a green horse, but I had a trainer who would put me in the round pen with Bodhi and try to move my shoulders and move my body so that I could get him to turn around in the round pen and then back up and move my body again and raise this lunge whip up and look like I meant business. And every time I'd raise my hand up like that, I would start crying because it looked like an act of abuse, and this was my baby. A couple of other therapists had arranged to take a training in Portuguese Bend for what was the new field of equine-assisted psychotherapy, and I signed up. And the trainers who were teaching us how to do these things, one was a social worker named Greg, who had kind of discovered equine therapy when he worked with prisoners in the DC jail, and he would take them down to the farm where he trained horses in his spare time and watch the changes that came over these prisoners when a horse would give his hoof to be picked out, or when he would turn his body and the horse would move in the round pen. And so I volunteered to do this exercise and playing the patient with 3 other women. And so the goal was to move this horse over a jump without talking to each other at all. And so we set out, and 3 of them started chasing this horse toward me. And I saw this horse running toward me, and I dodged out of the way and immediately felt ashamed, like, that's not how you get a horse over a jump. So they tried again, and they're chasing this horse, and this horse is coming to me again. And again, I dodged out of the way for a second failure and then a third failure. And Greg pulls us over to the side and asks me, do you want to quit? And I said, no, I have to get big enough to move this horse. So we went back in, and this little social worker who was like 23 years old said to me, just get your arms up in the air, which is like the hardest thing for me to raise my hand up at a horse. And this horse comes running toward me a 4th time, and little Amanda's behind me going like this, and I shot my arms up in the air, and the horse stopped dead in his tracks and looked at me and turned around and walked over the jump. And the crowd just started cheering, and I started sobbing, and I felt big inside, big enough to be the mom of a horse. And it's now more than 20 years later, and Bodhi's retired with those bad knees. And we had years of getting big enough to go out into the Santa Monica Mountains alone and gallop, completely free, completely unafraid. Once I met a psychic who said, oh, you have a son? And I said, no children. And she said, big brown eyes, like the size of a horse. And I said, yes, I have a horse. Thank you.